Good morning to the chair, and the topic on which I would speak is taxonomy of land identity. I'm sorry to say that my peer group couldn't turn up because me and my peer group, both of us, have a pre-PhD presentation in JNU lined up. So right after this presentation, I have to rush to there, and he has in the early morning part, and mine is after 2. So we were in fix whether to come for this presentation or not. So please bear with me, and somehow we managed this thing. And the topic on which we have written is taxonomy of land and identity. It's the basic idea behind this was the one drawback of this research paper is that I would say that please bear with us that there was no empirical research work done because of time and space. Uh, so it was a couple of ideas which we and my peer group discussed, and then we worked upon this research paper. When we talk about the land and identity perspective, I brought in the psychological perspective that uh, land is not just a physical tangible thing. It has some emotional identity perspective also. Uh, then in the Northeast, ethnicity is another idea which is running around. But if you see, ethnicity is all about the social cultural aspect, but identity is something which is individual perception. And as you see in Northeast, the migration is another area which is been a discourse. So we have to see the identity in correlation to the migration also. Now, when I go from the historical perspective, the institution of property has led to the French Revolution also, and it has led to the Russian Revolution also. In fact, if we go to the American history also, it has like it is land, or if the other uh, is the property thing. So I will use both of them as same for this research paper, that it is all about the economic freedom. Now, when I talk about the land, land or property, it is it's a bundle of rights, and if it is taken from a tribal person, it his identity is gone. Now, when I link it with the today's commodification thing, then economic agents talk about the effective utilization of resources, like the productivity of the land, and land is treated as a capital. But here also I would like to say that land has to being a state subject, it has to be taken care of from the when the state has involved into the state has to see that state specific model has to be brought in, that one state model cannot fit into X state or Y state. Then the how the alienation process starts, like when the towns are being declared, you see what is the basic idea when a town is declared. The majority of people is engaged in non-agricultural occupation, and agriculture is not the major profession. So this is the process through which the first alienation process is the development perspective process is started. Now land has also a gender implication also. When we see gender implication, I mean women is right from the history is involved in the agriculture, but do we engage that? It is always a, a passive. We always take the role of women in the agriculture as a passive, but it's actually a very active role. Then the commercialization and all, I would like to say that there has to be animation of three-dimensional things. It has to be the policy with the institution, land as institutional, then also the technology. All three, if work in correlation, then I think it would work wonders. If one of is missing, then it would always create the problem of alienation. Then when I look at the land from the ecological perspective, see, we have said that 33% of the land has to be for the forest and all those things, and we have jamidari, talukdari and all those things. But and we had the reforms measures also. But the land to the tiller has ever been the thing? No, because the reform measures has also not brought the result, or the whether it is a policy making drawback or it is an institutional drawback or a functional aspect of the drawback. Now, when the land is taken and identity is taken, the migration of the worker happens. When the migration happens, then again it has to be seen that the first generation who has migrated, has he come back and purchased the money which he saved in the land, or it was some for other perspective. This study has to be also seen that the worker who went away, when he came back, did he invested in the land, the property or the bundle of rights which was taken away from him? So this study is still a open unresearched area. This has to be explored. Then when I go to the policy making, panchayati raj and all those things, big things, I have seen that there are internal dynamics there also. The dominant groups always have the hegemony on the weaker section. So there also I find on paper it looks very fine, but there are a couple of drawbacks there also. Gram Sabha land is vanishing. So this is the one area which has to be looked upon. We always from the economic perspective say cost of production, ratio of return and all this, but has it given the real impetus? Now when I go to the land record management system, each state has tried to develop, but there also there is monopoly of the patwaris. There is a conflict between the judiciary and the revenue department. So don't you see a rent seeking economy is building up there also? When records, rights of records has to be straight, who, where is the law states that the title rights, it should not come in the public domain? Why are we inhibition about that? Then when I go to the tribal land areas, the alienation of the thing comes in. We have to see it from the historical perspective of the colonial era. The community land and individuality, and we have to see that there was no written records. The development projects, and when they are brought in, especially in the Arunachal and Jharkhand, these areas, we seen that the compensation or the rehabilitation, has it trickled down? It was just on paper. And after effects, because if you see in Arunachal, it has doesn't have the financial resources of its own, and the development hydel projects are being given from the company perspective. The hydel projects like in right, I like to highlight that Subansiri Dam only has 38 families for two villages, and ignore around 12 other villages which are submerged by the building of this dam. So we have to also see that the the rehabilitation process, has it actually taken place, or it is just mere on the paper? The second phase is also to be taken care of. Then when I see the colonial era of alienation process, the history was written in with the economic idea, the idea of division of hilly tracts and plains. But the culture, uh, the uh, the culture aspect was never thought upon, and the role of women in the culture was taken as a secondary. It's left. Yeah. So another, when I go to the community land for the tribe per tribal parcel, we have fifth and sixth schedule. But when I see there also that the chief, the Gaon Bora, we see that he is the custodian of the community land and this, but he is also prone to the influences. And when from the inside the tribal people monopolize the community land, the community property resources, so this has to be seen that the problem is at every step we take. So you have to keep a check and balance inside internally also. So alienation is not just from the outside, the conflict between a tribal and a non-tribal, it is inside the tribal also. So in the end, I would like to conclude that the role of the bureaucracy has to be, it's under the scanner. It has to see that land conversion is not just done randomly, and the conversion of agri to non-agri land is to be taken care of. Then records of right has to be clear. Then Panchayati Raj has been on paper, but the capacity building has to be taken care of. And individual to, we have to shift now to the community perspective for the CPRs. And when we have to now go to the stage two of the hydro project, especially from the Arunachal perspective, it has to be not just seen from the ecological perspective, it has to seen from the socio-economic and political perspective. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.